Hey guys, welcome to another segment of Gamer Station. Zach here, and today I've got a very interesting game called Democracy 3. Now, it's a sequel from Democracy 1 and 2, obviously by Positech Games, and it's an interesting game where you play the leader of a nation and you have to basically win votes in order to get re-elected, which means you got to enact policies and laws and stuff like that to make sure that you win over as many people as possible before the elections hit. So it's for Linux, Windows, and Mac, and it's a careful balance between making people happy and getting what needs to be done. So let's see if this game is worth your money.
I made plenty of promises to win this term, but it was the wealthy that paid my way. Lowering a few corporate taxes should pay that debt, and I could just cut a few educational programs to make up the difference. I won over the commuters and Greens by pushing for public transportation and banning GM crops. This may incense the farmers, but they've had it out for me since cutting their subsidies.
So, what's the gameplay really like in this government simulation? Well, you basically have to enact policies and take into account a few things. So, first of all, you got to take into account your budget. So, if you're running out of money, well, you got to make more money, but you got to spend money to make money as well. And if you drive the country into bankruptcy, well, that's not good either. And then there's the demographics of the people. So, you can't just make people happy. Maybe the farmers like you, but maybe the conservatives don't. Maybe the intellectuals do, but maybe those who basically the Republicans don't. And it's kind of like playing Republicans and Democrats in America, because that's where the game's kind of from. So it's based on that. So you have to find out which demographic is your biggest, and you got to please them, even if you don't fully agree with the policies you're enacting. So once you enact these policies, you got to see how the population reacts. Maybe your approval rating goes up, maybe it goes down, and you got to react and change the policies as you go along. But you have a time limit. You get to choose how many years you have before the next election. And if your election is in 2 years, that's not a lot of time, because to enact policies and to make changes and budget changes and all of that, it actually takes a number of turns. Each turn is 1/4 of a year. So in the long run, you're trying to solve problems. Like the big problems are like violent crime or alcoholism or homelessness, and you're trying to create good situations like becoming a technology hub or having a healthy population. And you have to figure out how to do this within the time limit, within your budget, and while keeping the most people happy, which is really, really tricky.
The middle class keep protesting about income tax and unemployment, but how do they expect me to invest in schools, hospitals, and law enforcement if they aren't willing to pay their taxes? I can't promise more security without more police and cameras, and I can't count on the youth vote after my public services minister recommended I raise the drinking age.
So what's the gameplay like in this government simulator? Well, you enact policies and laws and you try to keep people happy, but there's a few things you got to take into account. First of all, there's your budget. If you run out of money and drive the nation into the ground, well, then that's not a good thing. You do basically work on debt anyway, because that's how countries work. And then there's the demographics, the different groups of people. Some groups are bigger than others. Maybe the religious group likes you, but maybe the farmers don't. Maybe the conservatives do, but then the liberalists don't. And you have to be able to figure out which group really affects you in the votes and which group really affects the mood of the country, and you have to keep them happy, because if you get them upset, well, then bad things happen. So you're enacting these laws and then you have to see how the people react, but there's a time limit. So for example, you have a certain number of quarters. The game works in turns, and each turn is a quarter, and you have a certain number of years before the election happens, and if you don't make enough people happy by the elections, well, you don't get re-elected and you lose the game. So in general, you're trying to solve the big problems like alcoholism, homelessness, and violent crime and things like that. And you're trying to create good situations like becoming a tech hub or having a healthy population. And if you can really get that balanced and keep it going and make sure you really make people happy while solving all the problems and not losing a lot of money, just like a real politician, then you will get re-elected and you could win the game.
And of course, our credit rating is dropping with our GDP in the can, so I'm going to have to go back on a few tax promises. I thought I would be a leader who could get things done my way. But these days, I can barely decide on breakfast without consulting a focus group.
So, is the game really for you? Well, you might be asking me by now, Zach, where are the in-game visuals? Well, those are the in-game visuals. The whole game has infographics, really, because it's got so much information to depict. Well, there's not really a better way of doing it. So if you're hoping for like a city view or a nation view, you're not gonna get it. What you see in the gameplay so far is really what the gameplay is. So will you like the game? Well, if you're really into detailed strategies and complex sort of simulation games, and if you're a very patient and meticulous person, then you're probably going to like it. But if you're looking for fast-paced, explosive action, then you're going to have to look elsewhere. Either way, it's a very interesting title that they've even used in education. They use it to teach students how governments work and how things affect other things, and it's really cool. And even better, you can mod the game. So there's plenty of mods out there. If you don't like how something works, well, you can get it modded or change it yourself. So for example, if you don't agree with how a mechanic in the game works, well, that's no problem. So in the end, it's really not a perfect simulation of running a government or running a nation, but it does feel like one, and I think that's what's most important. All right, that's it for me for now, and I'd love to thank our wonderful hosts here, Cha Time at Tropicana City Mall, for having us. It's a wonderful place, and they've been lovely hosts. So that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next episode.
If I can pull a few more points for the unions, I just might get another term. If not, well, that's democracy.
Oh, sadly we're at the end of another episode of Gadget Nation, but it's okay because I need about a week to prepare some new gadgets, some news, some games, and more great content for you all here on the show. So do join us same time, same place next week. And of course, in the meantime, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, etc. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Until then, my name is Adipika Carruthers. Bye-bye for now.